Hello, friends. We're in North Hollywood visiting Emory Motorsports. This is Rob, and we're out in the yard, and I can't make myself call it a junkyard because it's not junk, but to the uninvited and unenlightened, this could look like old scruffy cars, but you see diamonds in the making, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. You know, we love to find these cars when they're, you know, abused and abandoned and, you know, left out to kind of rot, because that gives us an opportunity to bring them back to life.
Yeah.
It's kind of like gathering up all the orphans. You know, our goal is to just save the cars that many others, you know, wouldn't consider saving, or rescuing a project that somebody started and couldn't finish. You know, we're gonna fix and repair everything, every aspect of the car. So as long as, you know, 50% of the car is still there, then I'm happy to work with it. You know, everything from a pre-A to, you know, T6 cars to even that blue one. It has an aluminum block Buick V8 in the back of it. So, you know, we find them in
highly modified.
We find them in all different forms.
Yeah. And it seems nothing is really too scruffy. I mean, you have one over there that really, I mean, that must be testing the limits of what you can do.
Oh, but that's a beautiful little pre-A. Sure, it's got holes and it's real ragged, but you know, it needs to be saved.
Yeah.
And you know, it's got a lot of really beautiful elements still to it. The chassis is good. The dash, all of the inner structure's in great shape. It's just really rough on the outside, but perfect opportunity for us to bring one of these little cars back to life.
This is such a beautiful little thing because it just shows us again and again, nothing should be thrown out. Everything is salvageable, and with the right tools and the right attitude, this is going to become another beautiful Emory car one day.
Absolutely, yeah. This'll you know, sit for about 2 years before we get to it, because we've got
to make sure it's completely dry.
And we've got a bit of a waiting list. So
yeah.
you know, these days it's about 3 or 4 years out before somebody takes delivery of a car. But it's worth the wait, because we're going to give it all of our heart and soul and bring these cars back.
Let's go inside and look at that heart and soul.
Love to.
Now, Rob, we're inside now, and it's a mess. It's what I would call a creative mess, which is wonderful and very authentic. And you're going to take us through the production.
Yeah,
and why not start with the end use result?
Yeah, so we're in what I call the showroom. But this is really the area where I do a final inspection on the cars, and we do a little bit of detailing before we deliver it to the client. You know, here at Emory Motorsports, I mean, we build about 12 to 15 cars per year, and they range from a car like you see here, which is what we call an Emory Outlaw. Now, this is actually a chassis number 132, so one of the prototype Speedsters. But it was one of those cars that when we found it, it was a donor that had, well, it had big slick tires and fender flares, had a roll bar on it. It didn't have the original engine and transmission. So even though it's a very rare car, it didn't have the elements that were necessary for it to be a full Concours car. So it was the perfect candidate for us to build one of our little hot rods with. You know, people come to us because they love the Porsche 356. Maybe it was their father or their grandfather that took them for a ride when they were a kid. But, you know, these cars in stock trim and original form only had 45 to 90 horsepower. And today, people are so used to going in getting in a car that has 200 to 400 horsepower, regardless of what it is. So our goal with the 356s is to just bring it up to, you know, a spec that people can get in and enjoy and really drive. Most of our clients, I would say that about 75% of our clients are 35 to 55 years old, which is not what most people would expect, because it's not like the car they grew up with.
No, they're younger.
They're younger, but they had some type of introduction to a 356 or a Porsche, or maybe they've, you know, been into newer Porsches and they fell in love with the early body style. But because we build a car now that gives them that drivability that they want, you know, proper brakes, proper suspension, all packaged in this, you know, beautiful original 356 looking car, it's a car that they can get in and love and enjoy. You know, we put electric air conditioning in some of them. We have tractive, semi-active dampers, so, you know, electronic suspension in them, 911 type rear suspension, 911 gearbox. This car although it looks like a pretty stock traditional 54 Speedster, has 205 horsepower.
Oh my.
Big 4-piston vented disc brakes, 911 rear suspension, 901 5-speed transmission. Our little engine is, a 2.4-liter 4-cylinder version of the 964 engine. Looks
and this is your brainchild. You kind of developed this engine from scratch.
Well, we didn't come up with the concept. Porsche came up with the concept in the 60s. They one of their engineers, Paul Hensler, looked at taking the 911 or 901 engine and building it as a 4-cylinder. They just never did it. Then in the 80s, a gentleman, Chuck Beck, that built these replica
the 904
550s and 904s.
Yeah, the Becks.
He took a 3-liter 911 engine, cut the center 2 cylinders out, and made a 4-cylinder. And then another guy, Dean Palopoulos, did the same thing with a 3.2-liter case. So those guys in the 80s actually built running prototypes, which I own both of those prototypes. I just took it a step further and went with the 964 architecture, which is a 3.6-liter based engine, and re-engineered it. Scanned a 3.6-liter case, took the center 2 cylinders out, and then built a new cast case that would accept all of the 3.6-liter parts. So this is a 2.4 because it's 2/3 of the 3.6. Did a few other things, used early chain boxes, and we had to build our own cam housings. But all the electronics are built back here. You notice there's no distributor, but it's all coil on plug, Motec. You end up with a 2.4-liter, 4-cylinder, 911 type engine, fuel injected, dry sump, twin plug. It's amazing.
Yeah, it just fires and works in the heat and in the dry.
We'll take it for a drive later. We'll go out and drive this one.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it just fires right up. I just got through doing the Colorado Grand, which is this amazing road rally in Colorado. 6 of my cars were in that. We ranged from 7,000-foot elevation to 14,000 feet, and the cars ran perfect because of modern fuel injection. And that's really what our clients want. They want this amazing looking 356, but they want to be able to go out and fire it up without their garage smelling like fuel. And they want to be able to have 12-volt lights. They want to be able to have proper brakes. And when their wife's in the car with them, or their girlfriend or their buddy, they're not like, man, I'm scared to death because the brakes don't work. Instead, proper disc brakes, proper stopping, and just a really fun package. So for me, that's what I love. We've taken such a beloved car and we've tailored it to fit, I think, the next generation. And I think that's all part of what's going to help keep this industry and this spirit of 356 and sports cars alive.
My father had one. I grew up with one when I was 10. He had a 356B, a Cabriolet.
Yep.
And he had no interest in Porsche per se or racing or anything. He had it because he was a guitarist and Janis Joplin had one.
Right.
So he just wanted to follow his hero. And at that time, it was like a hippie statement. She had long hair and, guitar hanging in a string on your back, and you had a Porsche. So it's like a niche within the niche.
Right.
And, yeah. So I have pictures of myself, long hair and flared trousers, sitting on my 356.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
I mean, we could stand over here for the rest of the day because this is so interesting. But let's just run by it because this is.
This is really Porsche royalty right here.
It is.
And when I built my first 356 when I was 14 to 16 years old, I was inspired by a certain car, and that was Porsche's first race car ever. When I built my first car, it was a 1953 356 that I backdated, and I split the windshield and put fog lights and hood straps because I wanted it to be like the Le Mans winning car in '51. That was really, for me, what started the whole Outlaw thing, because I was able to personalize and customize a little car. I had no idea 35 years ago that I was going to have an opportunity to lay my hands on the car that inspired everything that I've done. So this is Porsche's first race car ever. The first Porsche to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1951. I've known this car most of my life, but I knew it as a convertible because Porsche built 4 cars that they prepared for Le Mans in 1951. They went to Le Mans. Only one of them actually competed in the race because the sister car crashed in night practice. This car started Le Mans in 1951 and won first in class and finished 20th overall. So it was really the beginning of all Porsche motorsport. It's the cornerstone of racing for Porsche. Gave them the confidence that they needed to continue on and become what I think is the most successful brand in auto racing. But it was just an old race car, and they did a couple more events with it, and then they sold it. And this car came right here to North Hollywood. A gentleman, John von Neumann, who owned the Porsche dealership here, raced it, or he bought it from Porsche, and raced it 3 times in this state. And then he cut the roof off and made it a convertible.
Oh.
So from 1952 until we acquired the car in 2010, the car was a convertible. It was missing the roof. Nobody knew that this was the actual car, but one of my clients and I had a really good hunch that this was the car. He purchased it. I was commissioned to restore it back to its former glory. And once Porsche put their stamp of approval that it was without a doubt the very first Porsche race car, I restored it exactly back to how it raced and competed in 1951.
But you didn't find the roof in the backyard?
No, but I went looking for it because the roof was cut off on Hollywood Boulevard by a gentleman named Emil Diet, who's an old coach builder. And so I knew I had done the research, and I found out when and where and who cut the roof off and the building. So you better believe I went hunting in the rafters to see if I could find it before I...
And that guy is now in the bay with concrete shoes.
Because the roof was cut off, the dash was cut off, and the rear deck lid. And they made it a convertible. And it raced that way from 1952 until 2010 when we got the car. So I did the work, did the research, and had to, hand build a new aluminum roof and brought the car back to its
That's a
former
whole
glory.
episode. We have to move on, but before we leave, you have to tell me about the third windscreen wiper there.
Well, so Porsche, in Porsche fashion, they're all about redundancy and wanting to have a reliable race car that's not going to fail. So they looked at all the systems on the car that could potentially keep them from winning Le Mans. The fuel system, for example, they put an extra electric fuel pump and a switch. Lights, they put
System
extra
A,
lights.
System 2,
Right. So the wipers, they figured chances are it was going to rain. So we've got our regular wiper system, which is 6 volt and hardly works. But if this fails, they put an additional wiper up here that they could easily just put the blade on, and at least the driver would be able to see. So redundant systems so that they could continue going no matter what. And that's really, I think, what took this car to victory was the fact that they just never missed a lap. It was only 45 horsepower on little narrow tires in the rain, but they put fender skirts on it to make it slide through the air a little better. And
that's very early aero.
It also has aero plates underneath, so the whole thing has aero plates. We could talk forever about this car.
We could. But obviously, to finish first you have to finish, and reliability is number one.
That's right. So this area in here is just, we kind of play with some cars, but out in the workshop is where we really create the stuff.
Let's get dirty.
So this is a family business and a generational business. My grandfather was an old custom car builder in the 40s and 50s. And then went to work for Porsche in 1961. Was the main body shop man, body man here in Southern California, repairing the cars. My dad joined the industry and became parts manager of Chick Iverson Volkswagen Porsche in the 60s, and then created Porsche Parts Obsolete. So of course, for me, this was my path and destiny. And fortunately, I've got 2 kids that fell in love with this business. And my daughter runs the office, does all of our purchasing and manufacturing, deals with Dansk and orders all of our parts and all of our suppliers, and is the interaction with all of our the people that we're buying and manufacturing with. And my son runs the assembly side of the business, so we'll see him, I'm sure, down at the other end of the business. And my son-in-law is in the business and is one of my metal shapers. So it really is a 4-generation business. But we're a small family business. There's, a little over 20 of us in total. But 2 in the office, and the rest of us out in the workshop building stuff.
And now you stopped there, so you have to explain that one. That wasn't a coincidence. I know that car from YouTube.
Yeah.
Where is it? What?
It's in Hong Kong.
It's like a crazy prototype.
Yeah, you know, every once in a while you just want to shock the industry a little bit. And, you know, Porsche built the 935, right? Which was a 911-based car with, you know, twin turbos and big brakes and all the fun stuff that won championships.
And fire coming out the ass.
Yeah,
Have you seen it at Nürburgring? It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Jägermeister orange, like.
So, you know, if Porsche would have built a 935 in the, you know, in the early days with a 356, it was kind of like, you know, let's do it. Let's build a 356 with a couple of turbos hanging off the back, and it was a fun project. We actually did it in collaboration with Momo, the wheel company, when we first did it, because they wanted to showcase some of their wheels, and we did it as a project at SEMA, where we brought it, you know, 2 years kind of in progress and kind of show people the raw and ruggedness of what we were doing. And then we finished the car, and a collector, one of our clients, a really amazing guy in Hong Kong, bought the car, and
so there it is.
And there it is. It lives on. Fire-breathing, 400 horsepower, twin turbo 356.
A dragon.
So, you know, at low idle, it just sounds like a 356. You know, the nice thing about this muffler is that it's not obnoxious, but at higher RPM, it has a really nice sound.
Oh, there's a beautiful Overlander all the way in there.
Yeah. That's
it's like a thing coming.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, the goal is that, you know, just mild driving, it just feels, you know, like just a solid little 356.
Oh, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah. And then brakes. Suspension,
fantastic.
steering, everything to kind of go with it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have great driving roads right here in the industrial area of North Hollywood, but we find our moments to.
Oh, but this is, I mean, this is difficult to put into words, which is wonderful that we can then do it. But this really explains the whole thing about this age gap that I'm flirting with, because now I can see how this can appeal to someone who's not 70 years old.
Right.
Because this is a completely different thing.
It looks like a very traditional early Speedster, but you know, the power, the brakes, everything's just in balance. Nice smooth brakes, the steering.
Oh, wonderful.
You know, just
very direct. Yeah, I noticed you let go of the steering. No, it's working.
Well, just so that you can kind of see that, you know, a lot of times people, you know, say, oh yeah, you've got all that power, but does the car, you know, handle? Do the brakes match it? And really the goal is that everything's just in balance. You see, I'm not chasing the steering wheel because it's rack and pinion steering. You know, I'm not, even when I get on the brakes, it tracks straight. And a lot of that has to do with the way that we set up the chassis on the car. You know, one thing that's so important on a car setup-wise is weight balance. And so we build in certain things in the chassis that give us the ability to weight balance the car. Even though it's not a coilover car, it's torsion bar, but we have adjusters on all 4 corners so that we can weight balance the car. Because proper weight balance is going to be reflected in your braking and how the car stops, as well as the turning. Everybody thinks, oh, well, you know, it's all about turning, but weight balance has so much to do with your braking. And this is our 2.4 liter. So our 2.6 liter is another 65 horsepower.
Yeah, there's more to be had.
Much more.
But this is already an abundance of power. I mean, who would actually need more? I know it sounds, I've been working with Ferrari for years, and every Ferrari now has like 800 or 1,000 horsepower.
You can't hardly use it.
No, who wants it? I mean, I know who wants it, but who needs it?
Who needs it? Yeah. Yeah, you know, when the power is so smooth and the delivery is so constant, you know, it just makes it so much fun to drive, because no matter where you're at in the power range on these cars up in the hills, you've got torque, and that's what just makes it so much fun to drive.
Hey car friends, thank you for watching JP Group Club. This is our new YouTube channel. It's obviously sponsored by JP Group, and we're aiming to tickle you in all the right places with information and entertainment pertaining air-cooled cars from primarily Porsche and Volkswagen. Stay tuned, and we're gonna take you through production. We're gonna test products at the workshop. We're gonna take you to interesting places, drive fascinating cars, and meet relevant people. Help me get this show on the road. Press the subscribe button and like and whatever you can. Share it with your friends, and we're gonna make it fly. Thanks a lot for watching.